President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we are requesting you to remove Nelson Wike as Minister of FCT. Even if you want to retain him as a minister, appoint him into another ministry and bring somebody else, because he's stepping on so many toes and he's doing that arrogantly and wrongly.
Wike's action of trading words with a uniformed officer demeans the dignity of the office of a minister and undermines the image of disciplined governance, forgetting that the loyalty of an officer is to the state and not to personalities.
Hello, good day everyone. Yes, the Federal Minister of FCT, Nyesom Wike, has been under fire for the altercation between him and the naval officer, Lieutenant Yerima. A lot of prominent Nigerians are asking him to either resign or tender an unreserved apology. And according to Barrister Femi Falana, he was lucky not to have been shot, although Barrister Femi Falana is of the view that both of them took the laws into their hands. Another prominent Nigerian who also weighed in is Professor Chidi Odikalu, a professor of law. According to him, Wike, the minister of the FCT, has no business being on the land. So in this video, we are going to review the various comments. So for those who have not watched the video before, here is a short clip of the altercation between Nyesom Wike and Lieutenant Yerima.
To carry land.
Sir, everything was acquired legally.
Will you stop that?
You
Will you stop that?
Sir, I'm an officer, I have integrity.
Shut up, your mouth, put
sir.
us.
I will not shut up.
Will you get out?
Sir, I won't shut up. Sir,
I was in school, you're not in school.
Sir, you can't shut
Will
me
you
up.
keep quiet?
You can't
Get
shut
a
me
big
up, sir.
fool.
I'm not a
You are the fool.
I'm not a fool,
You
sir.
can shoot anybody like that.
Sir, I'm not
You
a
are the
fool.
fool. Who are you?
I am not a fool, sir.
As at the time I graduated, you were primary school.
I'm acting on orders.
Take for which
You can't
order?
call me a fool.
You will see whether you love me here.
Sir, you can't call me a fool.
Where
I'm
are you from?
an officer. I'm not a fool, sir. I'm an officer.
You will have killed everybody.
To review the various views of prominent Nigeria, including that of Irabo and Lawan. First, let us take that of
the
Irabo.
uniform is not about who is wearing it. The uniform represents the authority of the state. Whether it's a small boy or not, it is the authority of the state. It's even worse when it is a commission officer who has a presidential commission. And so when you make such disparaging comments, you have desecrated the oath. You have desecrated the oath. What you have told the commander-in-chief and the authority that invested that position on him is that they are fools. So it is wrong. And I think that for the media, it is not about, in any case, law has two ends. For those, we also studied law. I'm not learned. But then in military law, we also taught that for you to be able to establish a crime, there are two elements: actus reus and mens rea. Actus reus, meaning that, was this thing done? Is there something that was done? And then the mens rea, what is the intention behind it? So when a son says that the minister has authority over land and it's not the duty of a soldier, that is not the issue. Now, if you have any reason to believe that what the young man is doing, there is a channel. That's the rule of law. So you desecrating the oath, it has not left the realm of what the officer was doing. It is an offense against the state. So this is what you, the media, must try to highlight. I know that over the years, we have lost our educational traction. Civics that ought to be taught, these are things that primary school pupils, secondary school pupils ought to know.
Now, here is another background to the story. Matawale, Wike ignored service chief's advice on disputed land with naval officer. Minister for Defence Bello Matawalle has shed more light on the public spat between his cabinet colleague at the Federal Capital Territory (FCT) Nyesom Wike and naval officer Lieutenant Commander A.M. Yerima, saying Wike disregarded the advice of some service chiefs and proceeded to confront the officer at a disputed property site in Abuja. Matawalle stated that the naval officer acted strictly in accordance with the instructions and displayed discipline and respect throughout the whole encounter. You see, the naval officer was given an order and he acted according to order given to him. Now, this explanation came hours after Minister of Defence Mohammed Badaru reaffirmed the federal government's commitment to protecting and safeguarding officers of the armed forces while performing their lawful duties. You see, the altercation between Nyesom Wike and the minister was uncalled for, and it's because perhaps Wike has taken his 40-year-old wife and he wants to go and show his power that he's the minister of FCT and that he can do and undo, like he was displaying on the video. That is why he went there. He had no business of being there in the first place. So this is another score for the lieutenant. He acted strictly on instruction. The officer cannot obey any other person other than the person who gave him instruction. So, and for those who are thinking that the naval officer is on the wrong side of the law, let us listen to Professor Chidi Odikalu, who gave a thorough analysis.
That Wike and the military officers had that was trending previously. According to a post that you made on social media, you stated clearly that Wike had no right to be where he was. Can you explain legally what boundaries exist for ministers or public officers when it comes to land or property enforcement?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you. Good evening. First of all, I think it is important that we treat everyone equally in this conversation. So if the minister has a name, then the officer involved also should have a name. The minister's name is Nyesom Wike. The officer's name is Lieutenant Yerima, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. So let's keep it at Lieutenant Yerima and Nyesom Wike. Because they are both, everyone, all of us Nigerians, every citizen is equal. And I think it's important to accord everyone dignity in that manner. Now, yes, you quoted me accurately. And it's important to try and break down what transpired. People cannot understand a basic idea that actually possession is an interest in property. Okay? So if you are in possession of a territory, of a piece of real estate, nobody has a right to use force to drag you out of it without the order of a court. That includes a minister. That's number one. Number two, there is a very dangerous provision in Nigeria's constitution. You can Google it while you're there in your studio. It's section 33(2), paragraph A. A lot of people don't read it. The Constitution guarantees a right to life in section 33, paragraph 1. Section 33, subsection 2 provides the exceptions to the guarantee of the right to life. Under section 33(2)(a), you can kill lawfully in defense of property. When you are in possession and somebody comes with force to take you out of the property, and you resort to force to defend the property, actually under the Constitution, you are free. And, you know, I could go into the history of this provision, which, of course, takes you back to colonialism and how we eventually got a human rights provision in the Constitution through the European Convention of Human Rights in 1959, after the Willink Commission report on the rights of minorities in what is now the Niger Delta. So if you want the history, I can give it to you. But the point is this. As a matter of law, not even a minister can just walk into a piece of land and do whatever they want without a court order. Okay? That's the first thing. But the second thing is, if you look at that video clip, let us even forget law and talk humanity and leadership responsibilities. If you look at that clip, can you count the number of guns that were there? All you needed to do was one person to have their trigger on their finger on the wrong part of a gun, and people could have been killed, including the man you call a minister. And you see, the most charitable anyone can be about the conduct of the man whom you call a minister is that he acted with absolute disregard for human life, including his own. And he is lucky that he met a young man who was not trigger happy. Because if anything had happened to him, the young man will still be alive, and you will still have a lot of people defending him. No minister is licensed to treat human life, including his own, with the degree of irresponsibility shown by the man whom you refer to as a minister. And no person who has that degree of reckless disregard for human life is qualified to be a minister, if I may say so. I yield.
Yeah. Question. So how does this clash between
the minister is talking about the law? He was talking about the law. Is that the law? Is that the law? But he himself is acting in contravention of the law. He's violating the law while even talking about the law. You see, we need to learn about our law very, very well, because you see, people violate the law and they talk about the law. So if you don't know the law, you'll be thinking that he is correct when he's talking about is that the position of the law? Is that the law? Is that the law? But he is actually the one that is violating the law. The naval officer here is totally right in every length and breadth of the whole thing. He's only years on Wike after taking his 40 years old wine. And if you listen to what he said after then, you will know that he is indeed under the influence of alcohol. Somebody who called a person a fool, you are a big fool, repeatedly, is now saying, I didn't say he's a fool. You will know that yes, he's really under the influence of 40 years old wine. This is what he does. 40 years old wine, it makes you not to think. You don't know what to say. Later, after the influence has gone, you will now begin to think.
Years of Wike and the military reflect deeper issue of impunity in Nigeria's governance and institutions.
Now, do you know the number of ministers of the Federal Capital Territory we've had in Nigeria? Do you know when the first minister of the Federal Capital Territory was appointed? 1975, Modukwa Ajosadogun. Okay? The second minister of the Federal Capital Territory, I believe, was John Kadia. The third was Irota Musa, both under Shehu Shagari. The fourth was, I believe, Halilu Dantoro. Since Modukwa Ajosadogun, we've had 17 ministers of the Federal Capital Territory, including soldiers like Mama Vatsa, like Gadonasco, who did 2 tours of duty in the FCT, right? Including Jerry Seni, who was a lieutenant general when he was minister of the FCT, and who was only outranked by Sani Abacha. who was the head of state at that point. None of them could have thought of enacting this degree of madness. With none of them have we seen a minister, not even the soldiers in fatigues, walking in and destroying things or presuming that they can. And why is that so? Because there are legal mechanisms, talking about impunity, for enforcement. You have staff who do that. And where there is resistance, you get a court order, marshals, sheriffs, and bailiffs move in, and they enforce with police protection. That is how it is done. The minister walks in presuming that he is law, not understanding. And by the way, this particular minister claims to be a lawyer, and doesn't just claim to be a lawyer, he claims to be a member of the body of benchers. And doesn't just, and by the way, you've got to understand that the body of benchers calls itself the body of the greatest lawyers in Nigeria, or legally qualified persons in Nigeria, right? And it's not just that he's a member of the body of benchers, he's in that special category called life benchers. So for the rest of his life, he's a member of the body of benchers. And the benchers are the people who admit new people into the legal profession. And as I speak to you, they are responsible supposedly for discipline in the Nigerian legal profession. Can you tell me that this person whom you saw in that clip, you can make him responsible for discipline of maggots in a toilet? So let's be clear. The minister under the Land Use Act, and I don't claim to be a lawyer, but at least I know enough law to walk my way through this particular matter. The minister under the Land Use Act has powers, or that are parallel to those of a governor in the states. But those powers, of course, is exercised by delegation on behalf of the president, in respect only of land administration, not as commander-in-chief, which we can get to subsequently. Now, in relation to the Land Use Act says what? That the minister has a power, a right, to enter upon the land and inspect it upon reasonable notice and at reasonable hours. So you ask yourself the question, did he give reasonable notice? Did he give any notice at all? And what was the hour? Okay? Now, if the minister gets resisted, the minister needs a court order to enforce. He cannot go and be telling anybody, but particularly a uniformed officer, you are a fool, you are this, because you then diminish your authority and your person and your office as a minister. And he can do a lot of things, actually, but what he's not entitled to do is to diminish either the office of the minister or a uniform purchased and given by the authority of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including the people of Nigeria. And that's exactly what he did. It was an act of utmost impunity for the minister to presume that he can walk into any place and do whatever he likes. And that is what triggered the resistance. And you see, a lot of people will tell you, sorry to go on about this. They will tell you that the soldier was not supposed to be there protecting private property. But the situation actually is a lot more complex. You see, if this soldier had been in a place like where? In Kalago, okay, which is not too far away from where you are, I presume, maybe. But Abuja is military territory, okay? Yes. It is protected by the Brigade of Guards. Those are the people who guarantee the safety of Abuja, because that's where the commander-in-chief is. And there are different parts of the job of the president, okay? So the president is head of government, he's a diplomat-in-chief, he's a sovereign and all, but he's also commander. So and he's also the leader of a political party. And so he is called president and commander-in-chief. Those are two different jobs in one person. The job of the commander-in-chief cannot be delegated. There can only ever be one commander-in-chief at one time. Sadly, at this particular time, it is not Nyesom Wike. It is Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And he commands his officers, his service chiefs, officers, and men. In Abuja, every soldier enjoys a presumption of regular command and regular deployment. So if you are going to be questioning whether a soldier, wherever you find them, in a restaurant, in the traffic, on the streets, in any habitation, as long as they are in uniform, if you're going to be questioning the mission of the soldier where you find them, you need a little more information and the humility to ask questions. So I do not know, and you neither do you, nor did Wike, because he did not even have the humility nor the temperament to seek that information. I do not know whether or not that officer was in a private residence. By the way, a soldier in Abuja can be in a private residence doing official work, either because there are operations happening there or because there are state assets there. So the fact that a soldier is in a private residence does not mean that they are out of commission, out of duty, or on unlawful business. That requires inquiry. That did not happen. As long as, therefore, that soldier was in uniform in Abuja, the soldier was on duty and deserved respect for their duty station. If the minister wanted enforcement, he needed backing. If he had produced a warrant or a court order, my views would have been different, but he did not. And even ministers of the federation are subject to law.
The
that
Nigerian
is the point about what
no, they are thinking, they are thinking that they are immune to all
now,
these things.
we've had
Nigerian politicians, don't worry, they are immune. They think that they can fool Nigerians
take possession
forever.
of land,
But there's one thing that they keep forgetting, that
and
you can't
we're not sure whether he had the court order or not.
All of the people, some of the time,
now, in this
some
one,
of the people,
what do you
all
think
of the
made
time.
him,
But you cannot fool all of the
into
people
that particular
all of the
property
time.
without a
It is
court
a fact,
order,
but Nigerian
saying that
politicians,
by
they are
law,
power drunk.
he's expected
And Yeson
is it
Wike
because
is
he
like a
felt that he
demigod,
was
and
above the law,
that's
or
because
as
he
an
wrote
FCT minister,
results
he had the right to,
for
enter
Tinubu
any
to come
land,
to
and then
power.
was
So that's
deferred
what
by
is
this
giving him so
naval
much
officer,
power,
lieutenant.
and he has lost his sense of thinking.
If you don't mind,
Don't worry.
Can I
Like
ask you a question?
APC will march. We
Have
see
you
their
heard
march.
previously
APC
any
will
of
see their march.
any of the 16 previous FCT ministers, not to mention the assortment of junior ministers that accompanied some of the others? Have you heard any time previously where any FCT minister walked into any premises to do what this guy did? That answers your question.
Yes, this is often a common saying by the military. Once you
Okay,
insult
so,
one soldier, you see it often that they can go and empty the barracks to come and protect their
shock
own. In
towards
fact,
Nigeria.
a soldier
Now,
values
from a legal
another
standpoint,
soldier more than
Nothing
their
that
own
where
Yes,
does
on
the
Wiki
line
blood
fall
brothers.
between political immunity and outright lawlessness?
Nothing that Nyesom Wike does shocks me. Because the man has proven now and again that he's unfit for public office. In the way that he acts, in the way that he talks, he's shown that he's unfit for high public office. Now, there is, he's no longer a governor, so he does not enjoy any immunity. Okay? Immunities are created by